Hey, what's going on? Today, my presentation is going to be over child safety at the Boys and Girls Club. So really getting into it, we want to be as efficient as possible as teachers. As someone who works at the Boys and Girls Club, I've worked there for over a year now. And while working there, I've experienced so many different situations, especially in regards to child safety, having to administer first aid. I've even had to deal with a choking victim at one point in time. So I've experienced several different possibilities between child safety at the Boys and Girls Club that we need to discuss, because this is very important things. This is probably the most important thing at the Boys and Girls Club, in my opinion. So at the Boys and Girls Club, we have multiple schedules throughout the entire year. For example, the summer schedule looks very different from the after-school schedule. And with that led me to do my own research as an employee who was curious. So the average full-time worker in 2014, ages 18 and up, they actually worked around 46.7-hour weeks, whereas at the Boys and Girls Club, this can vary from as low as 10 hours a week to up to 40 hours per week. Just last week I got 40 hours. This week I'm getting 17 hours. So the flexibility there is very, very severe, and it should probably be more rigid in order to have your employees be happier. But moving on beyond children and employees, what we have is going back to the child safety. So my main problem is sometimes we have to work in ratios as big as 1 teacher to 20 students. So I've been responsible for more than 20 students at a time. And obviously you can expect that as a teacher, that can be difficult to work with. However, as a teacher, I'm expected to be able to do that, which is fine. However, my main issue with this relies from the fact that in the case that something does happen, then I do not feel as comfortable as I typically would as if I was just responsible for the children in a normal situation. But anytime an emergency happens, I do not feel comfortable as the only teacher, and I have researched and surveys to show similarly that other teachers similarly do not feel as comfortable being the only teacher as if they had a second teacher, or if there was a much reduced ratio. So here you can see Utah procedures and research. We see the typical at-school procedure of what happens exactly after an emergency. So even at CPR training, you learn the first 10 seconds, survey the scene, etc., etc. You go over none of that in these procedures. Rather, you first go to call 911, etc., etc., until you get to things that I've never even heard of, such as refer media to official spokesperson. This seems like something you do way after or even outside of the school hours, whereas Utah is saying this should be procedures taught inside the school hours. However, I've never been taught this. So of course you can see there's many overlying issues to the main stem root of we need more protection for our children, and I have some solutions in order to provide to that problem. So my first solution is going to be to hire more teachers. This, of course, will reduce the ratio, as well as have 2 teachers in every area of the school at a time. So every group can have 2 teachers, making the ratio, it could be 40 to 2. As long as there's 2 teachers there, the ratio would still be 20 to 1, but 2 teachers will severely change the intensity of an emergency situation, because now I'm going to have a support staff there, a second person to back me up with any kind of multiple injuries, any kind of emergency situation where we have to very quickly act in order to ensure the safety of as many students as possible. And moving on to the commitment to safety research I've done for this paper on the Boys and Girls Club website itself, specifically created from Jim Clark, the new president as of 2012 of the Boys and Girls Club. He states in the safety policies that all Boys and Girls Clubs are required to have in-class safety policies, which we do. We have several safety policies, including webinars that we've had to attend. We've had to go through intense training. We've learned CPR and how to administer first aid. However, this can only be done on a one-to-one basis. So if there's multiple people, multiple students that require first aid, then I will need a second person there, potentially run back and forth to, for example, go get a first aid kit or a tourniquet, while as I administer first aid on the scene. So I need a runner to go back and forth in order to get me the supplies in order to administer the first aid. But this can really move on to the second solution, which would be to change staff break hours so that we can have 2 staff members available at all times. So I know that when I'm at the Boys and Girls Club, I could be the only teacher on the clock, whereas every other teacher could be on their staff break hour, or at least multiple teachers are. So that leaves the situation short-staffed, even though the situation hasn't changed. The students aren't going home. It's just the teachers are going on break. So really, it's reducing the ratio even more to where the ratio is increased between students and teachers. So of course, this goes on to my third solution, which would be to combine groups of children together. And of course, this would decrease liability as well as the ratio, because this could combine teachers as well. So say the third grade teacher with 10 students could combine with the fourth grade teacher who has 15 students. So together it's 25 students. However, there would be 2 teachers combined, which would of course change the situation entirely. Then you could have a runner go back and forth in case of any emergency situation. But after talking to my assistant manager as well as my official manager, we have come to the conclusion that we need to just, in general, hire more staffs. We need a runner to be able to go back and forth between all groups. We need a second teacher in all rooms, which would be preferred. However, it isn't state mandated, so it isn't what we are doing. However, the economics show that the marginal utility of labor will increase with at least 2 staff, and it will continuously increase until a certain threshold where it wouldn't be as efficient. However, it would still be increasing until the point where we would start getting each other's way. So then at that point it would start decreasing. But that's not until you get to 5 to 7 teachers per classroom. So really, 2 should be very highly suggested for teachers per room. So that would be my suggestion, as well as my assistant manager's suggestion. So to the site coordinator that this goes out to, please consider this, and thank you for your time.